when 9-year-old Lily Parker peered through her bedroom window and spotted the boy next door rubbing his arm in pain, an uneasy chill rippled across her skin. Something about that brief glimpse, his downcast eyes, the tense way he cradled the bruise, told her there was more to his story than met the eye. Before we dive into this story, let us know where you're watching from, and if you believe in the power of courage, hit that like button and subscribe for more. Lily Parker usually loved the calm of Maplewood Drive, where neat rows of houses stood behind trimmed lawns and tall oak trees, and neighbors greeted each other with friendly waves. She lived there with her parents, David and Melissa Parker, in a 2-story home that always smelled of fresh linen and the faint aroma of Melissa's homemade cookies. The fragrance of chocolate chips often drifted through the open windows, a comforting reminder that Lily's home was safe, warm, and filled with love. David was a middle school teacher who brought home funny stories of rowdy students and classroom pranks. Melissa worked at the local library, reading stories aloud during children's hour. While they were strict about discipline, insisting Lily finish her chores, read for an hour before playing any games, and always say please and thank you, they were also the type of parents who, if Lily had a nightmare, would tuck her in with gentle pats on her back and a promise that she was never alone. One day, Lily woke to a rumble of truck engines outside her window. She jumped out of bed, pressing her face to the glass. A moving truck was backing up to the house next door, a house that had been vacant for months. Her heart pounded with excitement. Lily had been lonely for a while, being the only child on her street near her own age, and to see a boy hop out of the passenger seat of a sedan made her grin. As soon as she spotted the boy and what looked like his parents stepping onto the lawn, she darted down the stairs. She didn't even slow down for breakfast, only calling a quick good morning to her parents before racing outside. David and Melissa, only half finished with their first cups of coffee, followed at a more leisurely pace, smiling at Lily's enthusiasm. "Careful, Lily," Melissa called. "Give them a moment to get settled in." But Lily was brimming with an excitement that came from the possibility of finally having a friend next door. She hovered on the sidewalk, too shy to charge right up onto their lawn but too curious to remain hidden behind her parents. She caught the boy's eye as he reached down to grab a small box labeled Tom, toys from the back seat. He was a tad shorter than Lily, with sandy brown hair falling messily across his forehead. He hesitated when he saw her, offering the most hesitant wave Lily had ever seen. Something about it was off. She couldn't put her finger on it yet, but the small wave ended as quickly as it began when a man's firm voice called out, "Tom, get over here and help unload." The man wore an unconvincing smile and had neat, combed-back hair. He looked like he should have been friendly, but the tone in his voice was anything but warm. Lily tried not to let that bother her. Maybe he was just tired from the drive or frustrated with all the moving chaos. Soon David and Melissa joined Lily and introduced themselves to the couple. "We're the Parkers," David said, extending a hand. "Welcome to the neighborhood." "Arnold Porter," the man replied. His handshake was firm, his posture stiff. "This is Gloria, my wife." Gloria Porter looked equally formal, as if forced politeness were her default setting. Her smile was more of a thin-lipped courtesy than an expression of joy. Lily's parents chatted with the Porters for a few minutes. Standard neighborly talk about how quiet the street was, how friendly everyone was, and which grocery stores were nearby. Lily, meanwhile, looked at Tom. He had lowered his gaze, as if he was afraid to make eye contact. She kept waiting for him to say hi or for one of his parents to introduce him. They didn't. Instead, Gloria put an arm around Tom's shoulder, guiding him backward as if he were a delicate glass figurine that might break if mishandled. When the conversation died down, David and Melissa invited them over for a casual get-together once they finished unpacking, offering to lend a hand if they needed anything. "That sounds nice," Arnold replied in a flat tone. "We'll see if we can make it." "Come on, Lily," Melissa said gently, sensing the tension. Lily glanced once more at Tom, but he was looking at the ground. She could almost feel an invisible barrier around him, like a child who was afraid to speak or a puppy who'd been reprimanded one too many times. She felt a twinge of disappointment. This wasn't at all the friendly meet-cute she'd envisioned. Back at her own house, Lily peppered her parents with questions. Why was Tom so quiet? Did you see him wave at me at first? It was like he suddenly froze. David shrugged. He might be shy, honey. Give him time to get used to the new environment. Melissa set a plate of cookies on the counter. Moving can be stressful, especially for a kid. I'm sure he'll come around. Let's not jump to any conclusions. Lily wanted to believe her parents, but something nagged at her. She watched from her window the rest of the day as the porters and Tom hauled boxes inside. Arnold and Gloria rarely let Tom out of their sight. If he tried to move on his own, Arnold would bark an order, and Gloria would stand behind him, watching. Lily could see it in Tom's shoulders. They remained stiff and guarded. When they'd take short breaks, Tom never went off to explore or run around the yard the way kids normally would. He stood near Gloria, head down, rocking on his feet. Lily wondered if he was afraid he'd do something wrong. That evening, while Lily was helping set the dinner table, the doorbell rang. David answered, and Lily heard cheerful adult voices. She peered around the corner to see Arnold and Gloria stepping inside, invited in by her dad. We wanted to say hello again, Arnold said with a tight smile. And see if you still wanted us over for that little get-together. Oh, absolutely, Melissa exclaimed, wiping her hands on a dish towel. We're about to have dinner. Won't you join us? Arnold and Gloria exchanged glances, and then Gloria nodded. Yes, that would be lovely. Tom trailed behind them, his expression unreadable. Lily felt a spark of excitement. Maybe now she and Tom could talk more freely. They all gathered around the dining table. Lily's parents offered the porters some of the chicken casserole Melissa had made, along with a side salad and homemade garlic bread. Conversation was polite at first, just the grown-ups discussing the neighborhood, local schools, and the community center. Arnold made a big show of praising the food, even though every word seemed forced. Gloria nodded along, politely making a few comments. She cut Tom's chicken for him, even though Lily was sure he was old enough to do it himself. Sitting beside Tom, Lily tried to strike up a conversation. Hey Tom, she whispered. How do you like Maplewood Drive so far? He looked over at Gloria and Arnold as if seeking permission to respond. After a moment, he said in a hushed voice, It's okay. Lily gave a little smile. Do you have a favorite sport or game? Or, do you like to ride bikes? Tom fiddled with his fork, glancing down. Tom, Gloria interrupted, quietly but sternly, eat your food. We don't want to be rude. She placed her hand on Tom's shoulder, and Lily noticed him flinch. Lily felt her heart throb. She wanted to ask if Tom was okay, but under his foster parents' watchful eyes, she couldn't get a word in that wasn't immediately cut off. By the time the dinner plates were cleared and the adults moved into the living room to chat, Lily was more curious than ever about Tom's situation. She saw him standing in a corner of the room, away from Arnold and Gloria for once, so she carefully snuck her way over. I like to read and draw, she offered, hoping to spark conversation. Do you draw? Tom's eyes flicked over to Arnold and Gloria again. They were in deep conversation with David and Melissa, so for the moment, he seemed free to talk. Used to. But I don't do that much anymore. Why not? He swallowed. They say it's a waste of time. Lily frowned. But if it makes you happy, why would they? Suddenly Gloria turned, her gaze like a hawk's. Tom, come here. Lily watched the boy's entire demeanor shift in an instant. His back went rigid as he scurried to Gloria's side. Lily was about to follow him, but then she heard a small gasp from Tom. She saw him gently touching his arm, wincing. Her heart dropped when she noticed a purple bruise near his elbow, just barely peeking out from under the short sleeve of his t-shirt. That single glimpse made Lily's stomach twist in knots. She looked at her parents to see if they had noticed. They hadn't. They were still smiling, sipping their tea. Lily's eyes found Tom's for just a second, and his expression was a silent plea. Don't say anything. Don't get me in trouble. The porters left shortly after. Lily quickly told her parents, Mom, Dad, I think Tom might be in trouble. I saw. Lily, calm down, Melissa said gently. Tom just moved here. We don't want to pry into his personal business. He might have just bumped his arm while moving boxes. But Mom, he looked scared. Lily's voice shook with urgency. He flinched when Gloria touched him. And Arnold was being super strict. Didn't you see them constantly staring at him? David offered a reassuring smile. They're probably just very structured people, sweetie. Some families are like that. I know you want Tom to be your new friend, but you have to respect how his foster parents choose to raise him. Lily felt frustration well up in her chest. But a bruise is not just being strict. Melissa gave Lily's shoulder a gentle squeeze. I understand it worried you. We'll keep an eye out, okay? If something's wrong, we'll notice. But from what we saw, Tom seemed fine. Lily knew her parents loved her and generally believed her, but she also knew they thought she was prone to letting her imagination run wild. She felt a pang of hurt and helplessness. As they wished her good night, Lily stood in her bedroom, wide awake, replaying the evening's events in her head. She remembered the bruise, Tom's flinch, Arnold's harsh stare, Gloria's clipped voice, the tension in Tom's small shoulders. Lily was sure something was seriously wrong. Over the next few days, Lily tried in vain to catch Tom outside. Whenever she peered out her window, she would either see him carrying out some chore under Arnold's stern supervision or not see him at all. She rode her bike around the neighborhood, hoping to bump into him, but each time she got near the Porter house, Gloria or Arnold would appear at the doorway, arms folded, quickly ushering Tom inside. Once, Lily called, "Tom, do you want to play with me?" But Gloria's eyes narrowed before she hissed something in Tom's ear, and he vanished behind the door. That afternoon, Lily went into the living room, where her parents were reading. She mustered her courage to bring it up again. Mom, Dad, can we invite Tom to the park with me? Maybe if we do, his parents will say yes and… David closed his book. I tried calling over there earlier, actually. I left a message, but no one's gotten back to me. Maybe they're busy settling in. I'm sure they're still unpacking, Melissa added. Give it time, honey. Don't stress yourself out. Lily sighed. She didn't want to appear stubborn or dramatic, but the more time passed, the more worried she became. She tried to push it from her mind. Perhaps her parents were right. Maybe Arnold and Gloria were simply overly strict. Maybe Tom was just shy. Yet that bruise, she couldn't forget that bruise. And the look on Tom's face, it wasn't just shyness, it was fear. Later, she was in the backyard, absent-mindedly shooting basketballs at the hoop her dad had mounted against the garage. She missed shot after shot, too distracted to aim properly. Out of nowhere, she glimpsed the Porter's car pulling out of their driveway. She paused, ball in hand, and saw Arnold behind the wheel, Gloria in the passenger seat. No Tom. This was the first time she had seen them leave him behind. Lily's heart started to race. Maybe Tom was alone in the house. This could be her chance to talk to him. She slipped through the gate in the fence, dashed across the yard, and found herself standing on the Porter's front porch. The doorbell felt cold under her finger as she pressed it. For a long moment, she heard no sound at all. Then footsteps approached, light and cautious, before the door opened just a crack. Tom's face appeared in the gap. Lily, he breathed as if he couldn't believe she was really there. Lily forced a smile, trying to keep her voice gentle. Hey Tom, are you okay? I haven't seen you around much. Tom glanced over his shoulder, paranoia shining in his eyes. But I'm fine, he said in a near whisper. Lily swallowed. She remembered how urgent she'd felt when she told her parents about the bruise, only to be dismissed. Tom, about the bruise on your arm the other night. Are you hurt? Did Arnold or Gloria? Tom's eyes widened, and he quickly shook his head. He stepped out onto the porch, shutting the door behind him so no one inside could hear. Lily could sense how carefully he closed it, like he was making sure not to make a sound. Once outside, he spoke softly. Don't say their names out loud. They have cameras inside the house. And I think they record audio too. They can hear everything. Lily felt a jolt of alarm. Cameras? Why would your foster parents need cameras everywhere? Tom looked down. To control me, I guess. They don't want me saying anything that might get them in trouble. Get them in trouble? Lily's mind raced. Tom, are you being, hurt? Abused? Tom didn't meet her eyes, which was an answer by itself. Lily's hands balled into fists. We should call the police. He flinched. No, please don't. Not yet. They'll know if the police come. They'll run. They keep the car packed with most of their stuff. I don't think they plan on staying long. They only came here because they said it's easier to hide in a new place. If you call the police now, they'll disappear before anyone can catch them, and then who knows what'll happen to me. Lily's throat felt tight. She wanted to yell for her parents, for an adult, someone who could fix this. But she saw the desperate terror in Tom's eyes. Then, what can we do? Tom inhaled shakily. I don't know. I'm scared. But I can't do anything about it from inside that house. If you help me, maybe we can find a way to prove who they really are or what they're doing. Then the police will have actual evidence, and they won't just dismiss it as a family issue. Lily nodded, her heart hammering. Okay, she whispered. I'll help you. But how can we? Tom glanced at the driveway, worried the porters might return at any second. I have to go back inside before they see me. Meet me at the playground tomorrow at 3. I can sneak out if I tell them I'm sick and wait until they go run errands. He reached into his pocket and took out a small slip of paper, scribbled with the words, "Can't talk here. They watch me. Help me get proof." He pressed it into Lily's hand. If I don't show up at the playground, you'll know they wouldn't let me out. Don't come here looking for me, it'll just make them suspicious. Lily's heart clenched. Are you sure you'll be okay tonight? Tom swallowed. I have to be. With that, he slipped back into the house, leaving Lily standing on the porch, a chilly breeze stirring her hair. She stared at the note in her hand. The world felt suddenly heavier. She hurried home, her mind buzzing with 1,000 scenarios. She felt torn between wanting to tell her parents right away and respecting Tom's fearful plea to hold off until they had evidence. She was just a kid. How was she supposed to prove anything against 2 cunning adults? But she believed Tom. She believed every scared word he'd whispered. Something was very wrong. The next day was agonizingly long. Lily spent the morning in her room, pacing back and forth, debating whether to tell her parents or at least confide in her mom. But she remembered how quickly they had brushed off her concerns. She worried that if she told them about the note or Tom's claims, they would go straight to the porters, or the police, without any proof. And if Tom was right, Arnold and Gloria might vanish. After all, Lily had seen the house's interior through the window, nearly empty, boxes still packed. They really did look ready to slip away at a moment's notice. At exactly 2:45, Lily hopped onto her bike and sped down to the local playground. It was a small park about a half-mile from her house. Swings, a jungle gym, a slide, all surrounded by thick grass and a few benches. When she arrived, the place was almost deserted. She swallowed hard, worried Tom might not show up. Minutes crawled by. She tapped her foot anxiously on the ground, eyes scanning for any sign of him. Finally, at 3:07, she spotted him jogging down the sidewalk, his backpack slung over one shoulder. He was looking around like a nervous animal searching for predators. Thank goodness, Lily whispered as he approached. I was so scared you wouldn't come. Tom dropped onto a bench, catching his breath. They left to get groceries. I pretended I had a headache so I could stay home, then snuck out. Lily looked around, making sure no one else was near. Tom, what exactly is going on? Are Arnold and Gloria, are they not really your foster parents? He shook his head, eyes on the ground. I guess they might have some kind of fake paperwork, but from what I overheard, they're not real foster parents. I think they take in kids for some kind of scam. They use different identities, moving from place to place. They act super nice in front of other adults, but once the doors are shut, it's like living in a prison. Lily felt a cold anger settle inside her. Have they hurt you? She remembered the bruise, the flinch, the terror in his eyes. He slowly rolled up the sleeve of his t-shirt, revealing more bruises scattered across his upper arm. Some old, some new, in varying shades of purple and yellow. Lily covered her mouth, tears pricking her eyes. I'm so sorry. Tom sighed, rolling the sleeve back down. I don't want pity, he said quietly. I just want out. But how can we do that? Lily's voice trembled with frustration and concern. I'm only 9. Nobody's going to believe me if I just say something to the police. Unless we have proof. Yeah, Tom said, nodding. They're always careful not to leave evidence around. They keep the place nearly empty. I don't even have any personal belongings except for a few clothes they got me from a thrift store. Everything else is locked up in the trunk of their car or hidden away. If anyone came looking, it'd seem like we just moved in and hadn't had time to unpack. That's why I need actual evidence, something they can't explain away. Lily frowned. But that means we have to get inside that house somehow and record what they do, or find some documents that show they're lying. That's dangerous. Tom's eyes were clouded with fear. I know. But they keep cameras, and they might have a stash of fake papers or something in their bedroom closet. Sometimes I hear them talking about passports or forging signatures. If we could get pictures or videos of that, maybe we could show the police. That could help, Lily said. I saw a policeman at the precinct once, Officer James Bradford. My mom had to report some vandalism at the library. He seemed like a nice guy. Maybe he'd believe us. Tom's gaze darted to the side, scanning the sidewalk for signs of Arnold and Gloria. I hope so. But if we involve him now, Arnold and Gloria might catch on. We have to be really careful. Lily's heart thudded. She was scared but she couldn't just let Tom suffer. Tonight, she said slowly, I'll try to sneak around your house once it's dark. Maybe I can take some photos through the windows. Tom gulped. Be careful. If they see you, they'll punish me. Or they'll run. Or both. Lily's voice trembled. I'll be careful. I promise. Suddenly, a shrill voice echoed across the playground. Tom. Lily's head whipped around to see Arnold and Gloria sprinting toward them, anger etched on their faces. Tom's eyes widened in terror. He tried to step away, but Arnold reached them in seconds, grabbing Tom's wrist so hard that Tom yelped in pain. What do you think you're doing? Arnold hissed, eyes blazing. Gloria's face was equally furious. Did you sneak out? Are you lying to us now? Tom shrank back, his face pale. Lily felt a surge of adrenaline, wanting to protect him, but what could she do? She was just a child, up against 2 adults. We were just talking, Lily exclaimed, her voice shaking with a mixture of fear and righteous anger. He wanted to. Gloria rounded on Lily, her tone icily polite in a way that made Lily's skin crawl. We appreciate your concern, dear, but Tom is not allowed out without our permission. You need to stop interfering. Arnold yanked Tom toward him. You make one more scene like this, and you'll never leave the house again, he muttered at Tom, though Lily could hear every word. Tom's face tightened with dread. Lily couldn't keep quiet. You're hurting him. Gloria advanced on Lily, stopping just a foot away. Her gaze could have frozen a lake. And what are you going to do about it, little girl? She asked in a low, threatening whisper. You think your parents will believe you? We're good friends of the Parkers now, or haven't you noticed? Arnold clasped Tom by the shoulders, forcing him to turn around. We're done here, he said. Come home. No. He steered Tom away, and Gloria lingered just a moment longer to give Lily a final, chilling glare, as if daring her to speak up. When Lily was left alone in the playground, tears threatened to slip from her eyes. She felt helpless, furious, and terrified. She wanted to run after them, to yank Tom away from their clutches, but she knew she'd only make things worse. Instead, she stormed home, her bike wheels spinning wildly as her legs pumped furiously at the pedals. At dinner that night, Lily was unusually quiet. She ate without tasting her food, hardly responding to her parents' gentle questions about her day. Finally, David put down his fork and asked, "Lily, is everything okay? You've barely spoken." She clenched her fists beneath the table, wrestling with her thoughts. Tom had pleaded with her not to alert the adults too soon, yet the confrontation in the park had been so frightening that she wasn't sure she could handle this on her own anymore. After several tense seconds, she decided to try telling her parents again, at least in broad strokes. "Mom, Dad," she began, "you remember how I told you I was worried about Tom? I've seen him get hurt. Arnold and Gloria are super mean to him. And they've bruised him more than once." Melissa and David exchanged surprised looks. David cleared his throat. "Lily, that's a serious accusation. What exactly did you see?" She recounted the scene at the playground, leaving out the detail about Tom's note for now. She told them how Arnold grabbed Tom, how Gloria threatened her, how scared Tom looked. David's expression grew grim, and Melissa's eyes widened. "They threatened you?" Melissa asked. "Gloria threatened you at the playground?" Lily nodded, feeling tears prick her eyes. "They said I should mind my own business. But I can't. Tom's in trouble." Melissa's motherly instincts kicked into high gear. She set a hand on Lily's. "We believe you, sweetheart. But we can't just barge in there. We need to do this the right way." David rose from the table and retrieved his phone. "I'm going to talk to the local precinct. If what you're saying is true, we need to alert the authorities." Lily felt a wave of relief. Finally, her parents were listening. Yet at the same time, anxiety churned in her gut. She remembered Tom's warning. What if the porters fled before the police could gather enough evidence to arrest them? She watched as her father dialed and spoke to the station, asking to speak to someone about a potential child abuse situation. The conversation was brief, but David managed to schedule a quick chat with an officer named James Bradford, who was on duty that evening. "Lily," David said after hanging up, "Officer Bradford wants to hear from you directly. Are you up for going to the station with me?" She swallowed, imagining Tom's terrified face again. "Yes," she said softly. "I'll do it." An hour later, Lily and her father were at the local precinct. The walls were a dull gray, the overhead lights buzzing faintly. David had his arm protectively around Lily's shoulder as they waited on a plastic bench. Eventually, a tall, kind-looking man with thinning gray hair approached them. "David Parker? I'm Officer James Bradford. Nice to meet you." His voice was steady, reassuring, like a friendly teacher or neighbor. Then he bent down to Lily's eye level. "You must be Lily." Lily nodded. "Yes, sir." He guided them back to a small office, offering them seats. "So, what do we have here?" he asked, leaning back in his chair with a notepad in hand. David encouraged Lily to speak, so she explained everything: how Tom was new in town with foster parents, how she noticed bruises, how she saw them behave threateningly toward him. She hesitated before mentioning the note, but after a brief pause, she pulled it from her pocket. "He wrote this," she said softly. "He said they watch him with cameras, and that he can't talk in the house. He begged me not to call the police until we had proof, but I couldn't just wait anymore." Officer Bradford took the note carefully. He read it, eyebrows knitting together. "That's unusual," he murmured, then opened up his computer system. "Let's see what we can find out about Arnold and Gloria Porter." He typed in the names, along with the address Lily provided. For a tense moment, Lily watched the screen, not understanding the data but sensing Officer Bradford's surprise. "That's strange," he muttered. "There's no record of a foster arrangement for those names. I do see a couple of out-of-state IDs for an Arnold and Gloria Porter, but there's no listing in our child services database. It could be an administrative error or something else, but in light of your concerns, I take it seriously." Lily swallowed. "So, what do we do?" He tapped the keyboard again. "I'm going to head over there with a squad car and see what's going on. David, you want to come along? Lily, you'll ride with us if that's okay. But I need you to stay back once we get there. I don't want you in harm's way." David looked uncertain for a moment, glancing at Lily. She nodded, determination burning in her eyes. "I'm going," she said. "Tom is my friend. I want to help." Bradford sighed but gave a reassuring nod. "Just stay close to me or your dad, all right?" They left the station and piled into a police cruiser. Lily stared out the window, her stomach in knots. She worried that the porters would see them coming and flee, or that they'd deny everything and hide Tom away. Her father placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Whatever happens, we'll make sure Tom is safe," he promised. She mustered a small nod, tears threatening to fall. When they reached Maplewood Drive, Lily could see the familiar houses, the neat lawns. It was strange to see her neighborhood from the back of a police car. She almost felt like she was intruding on her own world. The sun was setting, casting a fiery glow across the sky. That glow faded into darkness as they pulled up in front of the Porter residence. The cruiser's lights weren't on. Officer Bradford explained that he wanted to keep it low-key for now. They all climbed out. Lily spotted the glow of the living room light through the Porter's front window. She saw a shadow pass by, but it was too faint to tell if it was Tom or one of the Porters. Bradford approached the front door, David and Lily behind him. He knocked firmly. "Police, open up." Several seconds passed in silence. Lily's heart pounded. Then the door opened. Gloria stood there, a look of surprise quickly replaced by a practiced smile. "Officer," she greeted, her voice calm. "Is there a problem?" Bradford cleared his throat. "We received a concern about a child in this household. May we come in and speak with you?" Behind Gloria, Arnold appeared. He folded his arms. "A child concern? We have no idea what you're talking about." Officer Bradford gave them a measured glance. "Is Tom here?" Arnold's lips thinned. "Our foster son is in his room, sleeping." "Is that what this is about?" "May we see him, please?" Bradford asked. Lily could sense an underlying tension in his polite tone, like a thread pulled taut. Gloria's eyes flicked to Lily and David standing behind him, and her jaw tightened. "This is about your meddling, isn't it?" she hissed, but then forced a smile. "Sure, come in. But you'll be waking him up." They stepped inside. Lily shuddered at the hush in the air, broken only by the hum of the overhead lights. She glanced around, bare walls, minimal furniture. It didn't look like a place meant for family living. As Officer Bradford took a step forward, Arnold moved to block him, pressing a hand to the officer's chest with a scowl. "We didn't invite the neighbors, just you." "I'm here in an official capacity," Bradford said, slipping past him easily. "And they have a right to be present since they're the ones who raised the concern." Gloria called out, "Tom, come out here, please." Her voice echoed against the empty walls. For a moment, no sound came from the hallway. Then Lily heard soft footsteps. Tom emerged, head bowed, wearing an oversized t-shirt that grazed his elbows. Lily's heart clenched. He looked smaller than ever. Bradford crouched slightly to meet Tom's eye level. "Hey, buddy," he said gently. "Is everything all right here at home?" Tom cast a frightened glance at Arnold and Gloria. "But I'm fine," he said shakily, rubbing his arm. Officer Bradford straightened. "Look, Mr. and Mrs. Porter, there've been allegations of abuse. I'd like to conduct a short inspection of your home and have a private conversation with the child. If everything checks out, we'll be on our way." Arnold bristled. "Abuse allegations? This is outrageous. You think we're criminals? Do you have a warrant?" Bradford's gaze hardened. "At the moment, we're responding to a child welfare concern. If you refuse to cooperate, we'll have grounds to bring in more officers. So, which would you prefer?" Gloria's mouth pinched, but she stepped aside, letting Bradford move toward the hallway. Lily and David stood near the entrance, tension thick in the air. Arnold fixed Lily with a glare that made her stomach churn, but she held her ground. She refused to back down now that help had arrived. Bradford paused, turning to Tom. "Where's your bedroom, son?" Tom pointed weakly down the hall. "Last door on the right." Bradford asked Arnold and Gloria to remain in the living room while he looked around, But the couple wasn't having it. Arnold insisted on following them. Bradford didn't object outright, but he kept a watchful eye on the man. As they moved through the hallway, Lily caught sight of an open doorway. The room was practically empty, save for a bare mattress and a single box. There was no sign of typical childhood belongings. No toys, no drawings, nothing. Bradford's frown deepened. "When did you say you moved in?" Bradford asked, shooting a glance at Arnold. "A few days ago," Arnold said with forced casualness. "We've been busy with errands, so we haven't had time to unpack Tom's things." Bradford opened the closet. Empty. He pulled aside a curtain, revealing a window that was locked with an extra latch. Lily tried to swallow her growing unease. "We're protective parents," Gloria offered, trying to make it sound sweet. "We just want Tom safe at all times." Bradford turned around and noticed Tom standing a few feet behind them, hugging himself. "Why don't we step into another room, Tom, so we can talk privately?" he said gently. But Arnold immediately stepped in front of Tom. "That's not necessary," Arnold snapped. "Tom is just shy. He can speak right here." Bradford's eyes flicked to Lily, then to David, then back to Tom. "I'd like to do it in a more comfortable setting," he insisted, his tone firm. Lily could see Arnold's hands clench at his sides, but the man didn't dare pick a fight with a police officer, at least not yet. They headed back into the living room. Lily noticed Tom's gaze dart toward the front door, as if he were weighing his chances of making a run for it. Then everything happened in a flash. Arnold moved in front of Tom, practically shielding him from Bradford's line of sight. Gloria stepped between Lily and David, as if blocking them from seeing Tom as well. "Tom's done nothing wrong," Arnold said loudly. "You all are invading our home." Bradford tried to keep his voice calm. "Sir, step aside. I need to assess Tom's well-being." "Don't touch him," Gloria spat, her eyes flashing. David stepped closer, trying to reassure them. "We're not here to harm anyone. We just need to be sure Tom is safe." The tension snapped in an instant. Arnold lunged forward, trying to seize Bradford by the arm to push him away from Tom. Bradford, with his training, quickly sidestepped and pinned Arnold's arm behind his back, pressing him against the wall. Gloria let out a furious shriek and grabbed Tom, tugging him toward the back door. Lily's eyes went wide. "Stop!" she cried, rushing forward. She caught Gloria's sleeve, trying to slow her down. "Let go of me!" Gloria yelled, spinning around. She shoved Lily off, but Lily managed to block the doorway just enough to keep Gloria from escaping. Tom trembled in Gloria's grip, fear written all over his face. "Stay out of this, you nosy little brat," Gloria hissed at Lily. "Don't call my daughter a brat," David snapped, stepping in. He tried to grab Gloria's arm, but she swung at him wildly. Lily ducked out of the way. For a second, it looked like Gloria might overpower them. She was bigger, an adult fueled by desperation and anger. But Lily's father wasn't going to back down easily. He managed to hook an arm around Tom, pulling him away from Gloria's grasp. Tom stumbled, almost falling to the floor, but David caught him. Officer Bradford subdued Arnold completely, handcuffing him with professional efficiency. "Gloria," Bradford barked, "you're under suspicion of child abuse and obstructing an investigation. Let go of that boy." Gloria spun, looking for a way out. She found the back door still half open. She bolted toward it, but David and Lily blocked her path again. In the chaos, she made a last attempt to shove them aside, but Lily's foot caught on the leg of a toppled chair. She fell backward, hitting the floor with a painful thud. Instantly, Tom seized the moment. He lunged forward and gripped Gloria's wrist. "Stop hurting people," he cried, tears streaming down his face. "I'm done being scared." His sudden act of defiance gave Officer Bradford the second he needed to grab Gloria and pull her away from Tom. She kicked and screamed, but Bradford was stronger and better trained. Within seconds, Gloria was pinned against the wall next to Arnold, both of them shouting angry protests. Tom slid down to the floor, burying his face in his arms. Lily crawled over to him, hugging him tight. She could feel his heart pounding like a trapped bird against her own chest. In the swirling aftermath, with Arnold and Gloria cuffed and spitting curses, David helped Lily to her feet. Officer Bradford radioed for backup, instructing them to place Arnold and Gloria into separate squad cars. Additional officers arrived within minutes, cuffing the porters properly and reading them their rights. All the while, Lily stood protectively beside Tom. She whispered, "You're safe now," though her hands still trembled from the intensity of it all. When the ambulance arrived to check Tom over, Lily waited by his side, refusing to leave him. The paramedics found multiple bruises and older scars on his arms and torso. Lily felt both anger and sorrow rising in her chest. How could anyone do this to a child? Soon, Tom was placed under the protective custody of Child Services. Lily and David gave statements. Lily described how she'd met Tom, how worried she'd been about the note, and how Arnold and Gloria had confronted her at the park. Officer Bradford nodded, taking it all in. "Thank you, Lily," he said. "You did the right thing coming to us." David pressed a gentle hand to Lily's shoulder. "I'm so proud of you," he murmured. Lily gave him a small, weary smile. She couldn't believe how quickly the situation had exploded. That night was a blur of lights, sirens, and official questions. Despite the swirl of chaos, Lily clung to the hope that Tom would finally be free from the porter's cruelty. When the dust settled and the police cars finally pulled away, Lily rode in silence with her father back to their house. She was exhausted, yet her mind still buzzed with worry about Tom. Where would he go now? Would he be safe in another foster home? Melissa was anxiously waiting on the porch when they arrived. "Oh my goodness," she breathed, rushing out to meet them. "What happened?" David gave her a condensed version of events, and Lily added in the details of how Tom was finally removed from Arnold and Gloria's care. Melissa's eyes flashed with anger and sadness at the mention of Tom's bruises. She hugged Lily tight, whispering, "I'm so sorry we doubted you before. You did a brave thing, honey." In the days that followed, Tom was placed under temporary shelter while Arnold and Gloria were charged with child endangerment and assault, among other offenses. More disturbing details surfaced. The police discovered evidence of multiple false identities. They were apparently part of a larger scheme that involved moving around the country, taking in foster kids under false pretenses, and collecting any benefits or financial assistance they could, then disappearing. Lily felt a sharp pang of rage whenever she thought about how many children they might have hurt before Tom. The story wasn't over, however. A court hearing was scheduled for Tom's case. Lily and her parents were called to testify, as well as Officer Bradford. Tom, with trembling hands, would have to face Arnold and Gloria in a courtroom. Lily's stomach twisted whenever she thought about Tom having to relive that trauma in front of strangers. One evening, Melissa sat Lily down on the living room couch. "We've been talking," she began, gesturing for David to join them. "We feel terrible that Tom might bounce around from one foster home to another. After all he's been through, it's clear he needs a stable, loving environment. And, your dad and I have been talking to Child Services?" Lily's heart pounded. "Talking to them about what?" David placed an arm around Lily. "About possibly adopting Tom ourselves, if he's willing. It's a big step, but we have the room, we have the love to give, and we can't stand the thought of him feeling alone." Tears sprang into Lily's eyes. She had never considered having a sibling before, but the moment the idea was spoken aloud, it felt right. "Really? We can do that?" Melissa smiled. "It's a process. We have to be vetted, obviously, but the social worker was encouraging. Tom hasn't made a final decision yet, but we told them we're interested, and they said Tom was, well, he was really happy at the suggestion." Lily hugged her parents, tears of relief flooding her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. "I just want him to have a safe home." When the court date arrived, Lily dressed in her nicest outfit, a navy blue skirt and a white blouse. She and her parents parked outside the courthouse. The building loomed above them, intimidating with its tall columns and stone steps. Lily's legs felt shaky, but she kept a firm grip on the folder of evidence she and Officer Bradford had compiled. Photos of the bruises, the note Tom wrote, statements from neighbors who had noticed suspicious behavior. Inside, they found Tom waiting with a social worker. He looked small in a button-down shirt and khaki pants, his hair neatly combed. But when he saw Lily, his face lit up with a mixture of relief and anxiety. "Thanks for coming," he whispered. Lily squeezed his hand. "Of course," she said. "We're in this together." The hearing felt as though it lasted forever. The judge listened to the charges against Arnold and Gloria, who appeared in crisp suits and tried to maintain an air of innocence. Their lawyer argued that Tom had a history of being problematic, that the bruises were from minor accidents, that Lily was just a meddling neighbor. Lily bristled at the blatant lies, but the satisfaction of seeing Arnold and Gloria squirm under cross-examination soothed her anger somewhat. When it was time for Lily to testify, she stepped forward with trembling legs. She tried to speak clearly. She recounted how she first noticed Tom's bruise, how she saw him flinch, how they confronted her at the playground. Her voice shook when she described how Gloria threatened her and how Arnold was physically restraining Tom. Finally, she handed over the note Tom had slipped her, and Bradford backed up her story with his official report. She could see Arnold glaring at her from across the courtroom, but she refused to look away. Tom was next. Lily's heart ached to see him so nervous. His voice wobbled as he recounted the abuse, showing the court his faded bruises. At one point, he broke down in tears, stumbling over words. Lily balled her fists, wishing she could speak for him, but the judge gently allowed him a moment to collect himself. He explained the cameras, the empty rooms, the fear he felt every time he saw Arnold or Gloria's faces. Lily admired his courage. Despite his trembling, he pushed through it, determined to ensure they couldn't hurt anyone else. When all was said and done, Arnold and Gloria were unable to deny the mountain of evidence. With Officer Bradford's official testimony and Lily's detailed statement, plus Tom's heartbreaking account, the judge ordered the Porters to be held without bail. A sentencing date was set, but everyone in the courtroom knew there was no doubt about their guilt. Lily felt an overwhelming sense of relief wash over her, tempered only by how tired Tom looked. As they filed out of the courtroom, David and Melissa enveloped Tom in a gentle hug, letting him know he wasn't alone anymore. A few weeks later, the adoption process officially began. There were meetings with social workers, home inspections, background checks, and interviews with Lily's parents. Lily saw Tom only in supervised visits at first, but as trust grew, they were allowed to spend more time together. The day Tom was finally granted permission to live with the Parkers was a day Lily would never forget. David and Melissa welcomed him with a welcome home banner, Melissa's freshly baked cookies, and a brand new room, painted a bright sky blue, furnished with a comfortable bed, a small desk, and shelves waiting to be filled with toys and books. Tom teared up when he saw the bedspread Lily had picked out. It had cartoon stars and planets, just like he'd once told Lily he loved to draw in his old home. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You're home now," Lily said quietly, placing a small stuffed astronaut beside his pillow. No cameras, no fear. Just family. Tom looked at Lily, then David and Melissa, and the corners of his mouth lifted in the first genuine joyful smile she'd ever seen on him. "I've never had a real family," he admitted, his voice trembling. "Not like this." David put an arm around him. "Well, now you do." The following weeks were a whirlwind of adjustments. Tom struggled with nightmares, and sometimes he'd jolt awake in the middle of the night, disoriented, expecting to see Arnold or Gloria standing over him. Melissa and David were patient, comforting him each time. Lily tried to share her favorite hobbies with him: drawing, reading, playing board games. Tom, though hesitant at first, began to open up. He drew a simple sketch of a planet with rings and a rocket ship, and Lily praised his artwork like it was a museum piece. Slowly, he started to laugh more, even cracking a few jokes, especially when Lily taught him card games like Go Fish. At school, Lily introduced Tom to her classmates, some of whom stared at him curiously because they were in different grades. But Lily's best friends accepted him quickly, and soon Tom felt less self-conscious. Sometimes, though, Lily could see him freeze if a teacher raised their voice at a noisy classroom. She'd gently rest a hand on his shoulder, and he'd exhale, reminding himself that he was no longer under the porter's rule. One afternoon, Officer Bradford stopped by for a casual visit. He sat at the kitchen table with Lily's family, enjoying a slice of Melissa's apple pie. "How's our hero doing?" he asked with a wink at Lily. She flushed. "I'm no hero," she said shyly. "I was just doing what anyone would do." Bradford shook his head. "Not everyone has the courage to do what you did, Lily. And Tom, you were brave too, stepping forward to tell the truth. I'm proud of both of you." Then he looked at David and Melissa. "The Porters have pled guilty to some of the charges, though the final sentencing will be in a few weeks. They likely won't see the outside of a cell for a long time." Lily felt Tom's hand slip into hers under the table, giving a relieved squeeze. She returned it, grateful that the worst was finally behind them. The conversation turned to lighter topics, like how Tom was doing in math class or how David was planning a family camping trip before summer ended. In the months that followed, the adoption was finalized. The day Tom legally became Tom Parker, Lily woke up extra early to help her parents bake his favorite banana bread. They celebrated with a little ceremony at the local courthouse, where the judge who oversaw the final step in the adoption teased that Tom was officially stuck with the Parkers now. David and Melissa both got a bit choked up during the signing of the documents. When it was Lily's turn to hug her new brother, she thought back to the lonely days before Tom arrived and realized just how much had changed. It wasn't always smooth sailing. Tom carried emotional scars that wouldn't fade easily. He was prone to sudden panic if someone approached him too quickly or tried to move him by the shoulders. More than once, Lily overheard him apologizing profusely for small mistakes, as if expecting swift punishment. But every time, Melissa or David would gently reassure him that he was safe, that mistakes were part of learning. Over time, Tom began to trust this new reality, piece by piece. One day, Lily found Tom in his room, sketching a scene of a family, 2 adults, a girl, and a boy standing on a lawn in front of a house. They all had huge smiles drawn on their faces. "That's us, right?" Lily asked, leaning over his shoulder. Tom smiled. "Yeah, I'm still working on it. Drawing helps me think." She pointed to the tall man with a tie, obviously meant to be David. "He looks good. You made Dad's hair a bit thicker than in real life, though." Tom giggled. "Maybe I'm improving on the real thing." They both laughed. Lily felt her chest fill with warmth. This was the life she wanted for Tom. A life where he could be a normal kid, drawing silly pictures, joking about hairlines, free from fear. "Hey," she said, "we should hang that on the fridge when you're done." Tom nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, I'd like that." Outside, Maplewood Drive carried on its peaceful daily rhythm, neighbors jogging with their dogs, kids riding bikes along the sidewalk, the hum of a lawnmower in the distance. Lily thought about the day she first saw Tom on his lawn, how excited she was to have a friend her age next door, and how that excitement soon morphed into anxiety and fear when she realized something was off. Now, though, that fear had turned to relief and gratitude. She felt older, too, like she had grown up a little during the ordeal. On weekends, David took Lily and Tom to the local park, the same playground where Lily had first learned of Tom's plight. They would climb the monkey bars, race each other down the slides, or toss a frisbee. Sometimes they'd laugh so hard that Lily's sides ached. Tom was slowly reclaiming his childhood, building it anew from the ashes of the trauma he'd endured. In moments like these, Lily had to wipe happy tears from her eyes, proud of how far he'd come. Melissa, meanwhile, nurtured Tom's emerging artistic talents. She signed him up for an after-school art club, where he experimented with painting, charcoal, and clay. Lily watched him come home after the sessions beaming with excitement, clutching new drawings and art supplies. "Look at this one," he'd say, holding up a watercolor painting of a galaxy swirling with bright blues and purples. I tried blending the colors to get a glowing effect. Lily would gasp in genuine awe. That's amazing, Tom. I love it. And it wasn't just polite praise. He was good, better than Lily had ever been. She encouraged him to hang his artwork around the house, and soon every room had a small personal touch from Tom. Occasionally, Lily had nightmares about Arnold and Gloria. She'd dream that they broke out of prison and came for Tom, or that they were watching the house from a distance. She often woke with a pounding heart, only to hear Tom's steady breathing in the next room or see the gentle glow of her nightlight. In those moments, she felt compelled to check on Tom. Sometimes she found him awake too, their fears intersecting in the late hours. They would sit together in the hallway, whispering comforting words or reading a book under a blanket until they felt safe enough to sleep again. A turning point came months later when the sentencing for Arnold and Gloria was announced. The judge handed them several years in prison for fraud, child abuse, and other charges. When Lily heard the news, she and Tom were sitting in the living room, playing a board game. David gently told them, "It's over. They're going away for a long time." Tom was quiet for a while. Then he lifted his gaze and said, "So, they can't hurt anyone else now?" David nodded. "That's right, son. You're free." Tom's smile then was more than just relief. It was like a weight had been lifted from his shoulders, allowing him to truly breathe. Lily thought it was one of the brightest smiles she'd ever seen. She hugged him, and they both laughed, tears of relief glistening in their eyes. Over the following days, the neighborhood buzzed with relief and curiosity. Some of the neighbors who had initially been charmed by Arnold and Gloria's polite facades were horrified to learn the truth. Several came by with small gifts or desserts, wanting to meet Tom now that the truth was out. Tom was bashful but seemed touched by the kindness. Lily heard one elderly neighbor say, "I wish I'd been more observant." Poor boy. Lily realized how easy it could be for abusers to hide behind pleasant smiles in such a peaceful suburb. Life settled into a more normal pattern. Lily and Tom bickered occasionally, as siblings do, arguing over who got to use the TV first or who had to clear the dinner table. But in the middle of these trivial spats, Lily would sometimes think back to the desperate hush in Tom's voice when he'd said, "They'll hurt me if you tell." It made her appreciate even the annoying moments, because they were part of a safe, typical family life. A few months later, Lily's school hosted a family day event. Parents and siblings were invited to tour the classrooms, see the students' artwork, and watch short performances. Lily proudly showed off a poem she wrote about finding light in the darkness. Tom was equally proud to display a pastel drawing of outer space. Melissa took pictures, David joked with the other parents, and Lily felt a surge of gratitude for how her life had expanded. At the end of the event, Lily and Tom walked side by side down the hallway, weaving through crowds of families. Tom reached for Lily's hand. "Thanks," he said softly. "For what?" Lily asked, squeezing his hand back. "For not giving up on me." Lily's eyes brimmed with emotion. She remembered the scolding from Arnold and Gloria, the frightening confrontation in the park, the night she'd tiptoed around their house with a camera. It all felt like a distant nightmare. "I'd never give up on you," she whispered. Later, as they piled into the family car, buckling their seatbelts, Lily's dad started up the engine. Melissa turned in her seat to look at them. "You kids hungry for pizza tonight?" Tom and Lily exchanged enthusiastic grins. "Yes, please," Tom exclaimed. They went to a small pizzeria downtown, a place with checkered tablecloths and a giant jukebox. The siblings giggled together, feeding coins into the jukebox and picking silly songs. They devoured slices loaded with pepperoni and cheese. The meal ended with them splitting a bowl of ice cream sundae topped with whipped cream and a cherry. Lily felt a sense of wholeness in her chest, a new normal that was both comforting and exhilarating. In the car on the way home, Lily stared out the window at the passing streetlights, her mind drifting. She had changed a lot since that first day she saw Tom, scrawny and fearful, moving in next door. She had never thought of herself as particularly brave, but looking back, she realized that sometimes being brave just means doing the right thing, even when you're scared. Glancing over, she saw Tom gazing out his own window, a contented smile on his face. She reached out and ruffled his hair, and he grinned, batting her hand away in mock annoyance. Melissa turned up the radio, and a soft song played as they drove the last few blocks to Maplewood Drive. Lily's eyes closed, lulled by the quiet hum of the engine, the warmth in the car, and the knowledge that Tom was here, safe, her brother at last. Thanks for watching till the end. If you enjoyed the story, give this video a like if you haven't already and subscribe for more.